Our glamping business is making $20K gross revenue per month. Sounds great, right? If I hadn't planned ahead though, I wouldn't know all the expenses and time it actually is gonna take to make your glamping business a success in 2024 and beyond. Is that a Buzz Lightyear quote? I don't know, let's just get into it. Nice flippin' choice. What's going on, you glamping gurus? It's Garrett Brown from the Nice Flippin' Choice channel. Back again like I never left, even though I kinda did leave for about a month. But hey, I've just been getting some stuff in line with my own glamping business, which is why you are probably here to learn about your glamping business and how to really get it started in 2024. Or you may even have one that's already started or is pretty successful now and you're looking for ways to even boost it. I am looking for ways every day to boost my revenue and also decrease my expenses. What the hell is expenses? And it is an ever-revolving craft, if I say so myself. Now, I started my glamping business about 2 years ago, but we didn't launch till about 7 months ago. And since then, we have launched 3 different structures on our 11 acres. Now, we're in the process of adding more, but we are bringing in about $20K gross revenue per month off our structures. And I'm going to break down how exactly I got to that number, how much I spent, and what are all the steps in between that I took. Best one is going to be at the end, so make sure you watch all the way to the end of the video to make sure you don't miss out on the good stuff. A way you won't miss out on the good stuff for sure is to tap that like button, smash the subscribe button, and isn't it a bell? I think people hit a bell too for notifications. I don't know. I hear YouTubers say it all the time, and I'm just trying to be like them. Let's not waste any more time though and get right into the world of glamping and my 10 steps that you need to start a glamping business in 2024. Now, it all started in a land far, far away with a little sliver of land. While this is growing, glamping is expected to hit $3.4 billion this year as a market sector. Now, while I've completely made that up off the top of my head, it sounds pretty right because I can believe that there's probably about $3 billion floating around in glamping. Actually, let's check it out. Worth? Bring in? I don't know. The global glamping size was valued at $3 billion in 2022. I think I saw that number before, and is expected to surpass $7 billion in 2023. 9% difference. I was not too far off, and I know you want a piece of the pie just like I did, and we also want to provide these amazing experiences for our guests that they will have for a lifetime of memories. That's why you need to get into it. The money will come, all the extra stuff. Treat the guests right, and I guarantee you everything will come back to you. That is not one of my steps, but that is just some words of advice and encouragement that this is the hospitality business and not strictly just the real estate business, even though you have to be successful on both fronts, which makes it a kind of a unique thing when you're doing short-term rentals. So the very first step you need to take is a commitment from you. Now, most gurus would not put this as their first step. They would analyze the numbers and get on bigger pockets and look at airbnb and all this extra stuff. And they're all very valuable. But without a doubt, a glamping business is a lot of time, especially up front, a lot of effort, and a lot of cash up front. You may have a full-time job and you may not be able to get out to these sites, and you buy a site 10 hours away, you are going to struggle unless you have boots on the ground that you can highly, highly trust, which takes time to find these people that you trust, especially in the middle of nowhere most of the time. If you're not within at least somewhat of a driving distance of your area, it's going to be hard, my personal opinion, to get it really, really going unless you have massive cash up front that you can put up for it, which most of us don't. Most of us are not bringing in tons of investor cash when we're first starting off or have a big bankroll behind us. And if you do, you probably can get away with investing further away and just paying more people to really be mindful of it. Now, you can't have a full-time job and make this happen, but you need some flexibility. You'll need a few days a week that you're able to get out there, commit some weekends. I have a flexible full-time job of sorts where I make music and own a music studio, so I could do stuff at night. I'd drive an hour back to my job, go back to the site the next day. I'd schedule things where I worked all day one day and then went to the site for 3 days and worked on stuff. It was just figuring out your schedule and what works best for you. But without a doubt, the very first step is know that this is going to take a good amount of work and a good amount of money up front. And you're going to be the one that commits to that at the very beginning stages. I promise you, there's no way around it. So the second step, and number 2 and 3 are a little bit interchangeable, but I'll start with it. And number 2 is figuring out what county you want to actually work in. This is huge because you need to make sure the permitting is going to be able to happen. The zoning and ordinances are going to allow you to run this type of operation. You're not going to have a short-term rental ban anytime soon. And you're also going to be in somewhat of a destination area. You don't want to put a glamping site in the middle of nowhere, have nothing going on there, have no reasons guests want to go there besides your unique glamping site, which I hate to break it to you, there's a lot popping up now. So there has to be something that sets you apart, and there has to be a reason that people are already searching to go vacation there. There's a good rule that my friend Lex was talking about that I definitely abided by with my glamping site. He calls it the 60-30-10 rule. 60 minutes from a major city, which I'm 60 minutes from Houston, 30 minutes from some type of major destination, and then 10 minutes from even the slightest bit of civilization. You could be in the complete middle of nowhere, but if you're not 10 to 15 minutes away from a grocery store, gas station, all these different types of things, you're going to find out how very hard it is for you and your guests to really get a lot of things thriving, and pick up the essentials that you sometimes may need. It's going to take a lot more to it. These are just some small steps and guidelines that you should really pay attention to. You want to be somewhat near the attraction because that's what's going to bring people really in. I have a whole video on how to actually get permits, find the right county to work in. I will link it below and then above if I remember correctly. But the main things here are reach out to these counties, the planning departments and the permitting departments, and tell them what you're planning on doing. See what their feedback is. See what, if they immediately say, absolutely not, we would never do that, then that's probably not the right county for you. If they're kind of like, sounds interesting, or they just don't know much, don't be afraid to keep going for answers. And it's probably a better chance that you're actually going to be able to probably do something like that there. Bonus points, major bonus points, if they have a history of being a town or area that allows vacation rentals. I bought my place by Lake Livingston and the Sam Houston National Forest near Houston, which has a history of vacation rentals. There's lake houses, there's history of Airbnbs, there's a history of camping sites, campgrounds, other things like that they're not going to shut down short-term rentals anytime soon because it is a major business for them. So then the third step is figuring out what type of structure or structures you're actually going to build. This helps when you're trying to get your permits done, talking to contractors. If you call a permitting department, you're like, hey,
I just kind of want to build some stuff, and I want to build a tiny house and maybe a geodome or a yurt.
And you just start spouting off all these things. They're going to be very confused and not really know how to give you an answer because each structure is different, surprisingly. You would think a lot of them line up, but each one has its own reasons that it may not get permitted or something like that. There's different reasons like that. That's why you always need architecture plans to whatever structure you are going to get. If you get architecture plans, your chances of getting an actual permit shoot through the roof without a doubt. If you're off-grid, this is something I didn't do and I don't know much about. There are other people out there that do way more off-grid that you might want to, research or do a consultation with possibly. But off-grid, you have more flexibility in your permits and things like that. I personally didn't want my glamping site to be that way. If you're going that route, talk to the counties and planning. You think if you're in an unrestricted area and you're off-grid that you'll be able to just put up whatever and get away with it, but it's still not the case. You're going to have to deal with multiple different things that the county is going to want to see before you actually are able to work in that area. So figure out your goals. Figure out if you want 6 domes, if you want a tree house, a yurt, and an airstream. Figure out if you want just one big tiny home, like big tiny home. That doesn't even make sense. What an oxymoron right there. You really need to plan these things out though and have a general idea of what you think is going to work for you. And my pro tip is don't use all of the same structure because of novelty issues. You get way better marketing. More people will come back to stay. If you have 6 domes, they stay in one dome. There's probably not a reason for them to come back, even if the other dome's a little bit different. I see the value though in knowing how to build certain things and knowing your cost. And if I would have built my second dome already, I would save money. I would save time because I know how to build it. And maybe a different area I will, but I do know for a fact that I have multiple better marketing angles when I have different structures. So figure out what structure you want and then figure out what county you're trying to go into. These will kind of work hand in hand, and don't be afraid to reach out to some contractors in the area and just call them and get their opinion. So now your fourth step is to do your due diligence fully. Due diligence. This is visiting sites, visiting areas, staying at sites, staying in some Airbnbs or glamping sites nearby, or maybe in a county you want to go to, or even to see how the structures is. I stayed in several different Airbnbs structures before I figured out that I wanted to do a dome. I tried a yurt, I tried other things like that, and I personally, when I stayed in the dome, I knew that was the thing I wanted to build based off my numbers and analysis and actually being there. You need to see what competition is out there in different counties. You need to run AirDNA, which is not the only place you need to check for pricing, because it's very hard to price a glamping structure off AirDNA because they'll give you some good information of the area. But even for my example, I'm in an area where there's tons of lake houses, all on the lake. They all look the same. They all have the same pelican pictures and all these things like that. And there's not many structures like mine at all, especially a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom dome. That's like in comparison to the other 1-bedroom, 1-bathrooms in the area, I'm charging about $349 per night. They're charging like $99 per night. It's some good basis information, but your best place to do is just go on Airbnb and see what's in the area. Go to the categories, search around, look at their calendar, how it's filled up, see the amount of reviews they're getting. This is a way that I would search into an area and see what my competition level is, but these are really going to help you figure out how much something's getting rented in the area, if the area really is, profitable or has a lot of visitors. There's no one end-all site that will show you everything you need to know, but there's multiple different ways that you can figure out if something is actually going to work in an area. So do your due diligence fully. I looked for 8 months. I have my realtor license, so I was able to view places and go in and out at my own leisure, and that is a benefit. You may not have a realtor that has that, but I saw at least 20 to 30 places over 8 months before I really finally figured out what place was the right one for me and what I didn't want in place. I was looking for about 5 acres when I started. I realized that wasn't enough. I ended up looking for places that were 10 acres and I found the perfect one. Once I was able to really narrow down what I wanted, it helped my mind clear up and really make good decisions. Now, your 5th step, and probably the hardest one that I found in this whole process, especially when you're first starting up, is the funding. This is a very cash-heavy upfront business. There's not many loans you're gonna be able to get for this. It's very hard to get loans for just raw land, which I don't recommend. I've had many videos talking about how I got my actual place using an owner-occupied loan for 5% down with a house on about 10 plus acres. And I had to live in the house for a year, technically, through the loan and all these other things before I could rent it out. And I just built the site. I was able to save some of my cash with that 5% down. Now I have a house that has equity that is building up. It was a nice house. We did some remodeling to it. We still can do more that will keep bringing the equity up in it. But then we also have our heavy cash flow, like the geodesic dome and our mirror house, which don't have as much equity into it, especially the geodome. It has a commercial permit and it's more valued as a business. But in terms of equity, the utilities and other things like that I put out there are definitely added value. But just the structure itself, the $20,000 I spent on the dome and all that, that doesn't go into the equity per se of the house. I'll be interested to see what an appraiser says about this when later on down the line I may, cash out refinance or maybe, something like that to get some of my funds back. With rates so high right now, it'd be ridiculous to try to cash out refinance. There's a few ways you can get funding for your glamping site. Obviously, your own personal reserves, which in today's terms is a little harder to get high savings on your own just because everything costs more now. But if you have decent savings set up, you'll be able to make this work a little better for you and be smart with your cash. You can look in for investors. You can look for partners. This gets a little finicky when when you're starting to work with other people, especially if you don't know them. So do this with caution. But if it's the only way you can get started, this will help you scale your business tremendously. Come up with a business plan to show them exactly what you want to do, what your 5-year goal is, what your 10-year goal is, break down the profits, expenses, all the numbers you would need in a business plan. There's a lot of resources online that will show you what are some good ideas for a business plan. And there's tons of ones out there too that can help you really understand what expenses you may have going within a site like this. I will make a full video very soon breaking down all my expenses, breaking down my profit over the last 6 months with my different structures. And I will talk about some different things that you won't expect when you're actually running a glamping site that you might have to pay for. The easiest way to get into this though is without a doubt trying to get an owner occupied loan on a land hack. Find a house with some land on it, try to get the loan for it. If you have to put 20% down because you're an investor, a lot of cash is going to go up front to that. If you have the cash for it, that is fine. If you can figure out the owner occupied route, that is the best way to make this a profitable business and save your cash back from the beginning and maybe not have to have an investor that helps you. So the 6th step is picking contractors. This is a little tougher in rural areas, but there's a lot of good tips and tricks I have for you that will be able to help you find the right contractor for this. The 2 best places I found contracts in the secluded rural areas is Facebook groups, without a doubt, probably the best one, and then Google. If they're even somewhat all there in the head, they will be on Google and know that they need to advertise some on Google or at least have their business listing in that area. Reach out to some of those first because they obviously have somewhat of a business sense and you're looking for somebody that definitely has been doing this for a little bit and has somewhat of a reputation that they have to uphold. When you're on Facebook groups, you can go into these different ones, like whatever the local city is, it probably has a Facebook group. The local county probably has a Facebook group that someone's made. Just go in and ask for recommendations. Make sure they are insured. Whoever steps on your property, please make sure they're insured. You could lose a lot if you have Joe Schmo working on electric on your property and something bad happens to it. Knock on wood. I don't got any wood really right here, but that's not a route you want to go. Make sure whoever you're working with is insured. If you have any construction experience, you may not need a general contractor. Some of these are a little easier to set up. You get your plumber, you get your electrician, you get your HVAC. There's a few different, if you have any construction experience, you can save a good bit of money by not hiring a GC. Most likely you'll have to hire a general contractor though. If this is your first project, do not feel bad if you have to spend that extra money because they are going to find things and help you with things that you were not expecting to do. It'll make it easier to get your permit as well, most likely, because the county may want to know who's doing the work. And if you're using, like I said, Joe Schmo from up the corner that isn't insured and your state needs to be licensed, not all states have to have a general contractor license. They may not pass through your permit if they're not approving the person that's working. There's a million reasons they don't have to approve your permit. Talk to multiple contractors though and just ask them some simple questions. Say what you're trying to do, see what their thoughts are. If they get real scared of having to build something kind of weird and quirky and unique, they've never worked with architecture plans, like you may need to get your own. They may have their own architect, which maybe you go through that route. There's a million different ways the contractor can help you and hurt you. Just talk to a few, get 3 bids, maybe 4, because you don't know what you don't know when you're building these type of unique structures. And 3 bids is going to definitely give you that idea of like, okay, well, this was really low, this one's really high, this one's kind of in the middle of both. That's probably the one you're going to want to go with, in my opinion. So 7 and 8 kind of interchange a little bit too. They'll be working hand in hand. 7 is the building phase. You want to stay on top of your contractors. Don't pay money up front that you don't need to pay. Don't pay money up front until work is done. Depending on how big the project is, there might be a small upfront draw for some of the materials and, to lock in your contract and things like that. It's usually about in the 20 to 30% range. And then real contractors will only take draws when they're done with the work and you approve it. Do not put up any money until you're absolutely sure the work is being done properly. There'll be quite a bit of, I don't want to say hand holding, but you need to check on a lot of things that the contractor may not check on or may not be paying attention to, which also ties into our 8th one, which I'm sure my editor will put 7 and 8 together or something right here. But the 8th one is the design that you're doing for your structure. The design and the building process are going to pretty much go hand in hand. You're going to want to figure out what is a cool theme, what is a good theme for the area. If you don't have any experience like this at all, get an interior designer to help you. Go on Fiverr.com, get some renderings. This goes with the outdoor building as well. I got plenty of renders. I'll pop up a couple of them as well here. This helped bring my vision to life and really helped set the tone for what we were trying to build with our theme, our design, and really helped lay the contractors out to know kind of what they were getting into a little bit. They're not that expensive to get some pretty solid renderings, a few $100. This is going to save you a lot of headache. And this will also, you'll be able to do some pre-marketing. You might be able to get investors even more involved if you have, the right types of renders that show them what you're trying to build. Because most investors, you're going to explain this to them, they're not really going to get it from the first time you tell them. So these type of things will help you along the building process and the design process. Don't be afraid to go bold with your design. Colors, painting walls, accent pillows, murals, LED lights. Pro tip, if you do come up with a design, try to see if there's a way you can make it somewhat easy to change down the line if you want to and remarket to a whole new amount of people and they'll think it's a brand new, dome or structure. For my dome, I did it as a space theme because we were by NASA and I felt it looked like an astronaut helmet. Been getting great reception, but there's only a few things I have to take out to change the whole theme that I want to. It's a LED light, a few pictures, a few little knickknacks and other things that make it kind of unique. But for about $1,000, I can turn over the whole thing, make it a whole new theme, and then do a whole new remarket brand where people think it is a new structure. This all comes down to theme and knowing what you're wanting to do going forward. So 9 and 10 are pretty much once you're getting everything rolling along and you're looking further into how I can actually make this a profitable business. 9 is marketing. Marketing wise, they go viral pretty much every time we post stuff. We try to post once a day. I have some assistants that help me. I have my own marketing background that I know, but also I'll get people off Fiverr. There's marketing on Instagram. I get influencers to come in that really help with the marketing and pictures if you want to. My advice is when you get pictures, you need professional pictures. I would get some real estate quality photos, which are a little cheaper usually, a couple $100 from a really good real estate photographer. And I would also get a lifestyle photographer with maybe some actors and actresses in it. The pictures will come out a little more warm, and I'll flash up a couple different examples of what I mean here. They'll come out a little more warm and fit that theme of what exactly Airbnb kind of vibes with. It's hard to explain, but there's a different style picture, and they both work really well, but the warmer lifestyle photos, they're going to be more expensive. They're probably going to be to the $900 to $1,000 per property, or maybe even a little more, which kind of blew my mind. It may not be the exact thing you need there, because video is really where it's at. Pictures are great. They're going to do really well for you, but if you're going to spend money on anything besides the one set of really professional pictures, is to get high quality video, high quality drone video, high quality like TikTok and Reel videos. You can get this from yourself. You can get this from influencers. You can, have they call it UGC, which is a user generated content. Yeah, something. I get these people DM me all the time. User generated content. They might be able to come out and help you with your pictures and your aesthetics. The marketing is crucial. We run Google ads. We run Facebook ads. We do giveaways. We've partnered with, local charities. We have done local news stations, local newspapers. viewers. We reach out to everyone that we can, and it's something that we focus on and have a budget in our pro forma that states it's probably about 10% of our budget that we spend on the marketing, and hopefully we can draw it down over time as we go. But without a doubt, when you're competing in this sector, taking the control of your marketing and what you're actually going to do going forward is a huge step. And I really, if you don't know anything about marketing, this will really set your glamping site up for success. And then 10, which is the last and not least, is the operations of the whole thing. You need to try out multiple cleaners, try out multiple handy people, pest control, how you're going to do payments, how you're going to do refunds, how you're going to do processing, how you're going to handle guest check-in. Are you going to send automated messages? There's a million different things that go into the operations side. And if you were just one person, my advice is to think about what the guest is going to ask you when they're coming and try to set it as automated as possible for you. I send out guest messages when they book, instantly confirming it. I send out about 2 weeks before a ultimate guides email that shows everything to do in the area. About 10 to 12 days before, we send out another email that has the codes, a video walkthrough, which is very easy to do, helpful for guests, and will tremendously help people from asking a ton of questions that you don't need to do. Do a quick video walkthrough, put it on your YouTube for about 20 minutes, show everything, show how to work different things, small stuff. It's particularly for your guests, but a couple of these videos on my YouTube channel for my Cameron Ranch glamping one have done decently well on views because guests go in and watch the whole thing and it triggers the YouTube algorithm and all these things like that. But this walkthrough video, put it in a link, send it in an email along with your digital guidebook and other instructions of check-in time, the address, what their code is. If you send this automatic email, it's going to eliminate a ton of questions for guests going forward. If there's a segment that I touched that you want me to go into more quickly and make a video about, let me know in the comments below because it really helps me understand what my viewers are really wanting to see and hear from me as I talk about my experience growing my glamping site. I really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you haven't, hit that subscribe button. And until the next video, I'll see y'all then. Peace. Happy glamping.